Gary, again, as a pastor for many decades, and by the way, I did not know, as you referenced, it had been 45 years since you've been ordained. Congratulations, my friend. And I've known you maybe 30 of those, 25, 28, 30 of those 45 years, and it's been a delight to know you and labor alongside you. But talk a little bit, if you would, in this final segment. We often call it our solution segment. To those folks out there, whether individually or maybe they have a small business or maybe it's a pastor in the ministry and he's a bit discouraged and he's listening to us today and saying, you know what, I'd like to see God's favor and good hand of blessing on my life. Will that come? Nobody knows who I am. My life's not going well right now, but will that eventually come if I continue to order my life or if I reorder and rearrange my life? Maybe there are people listening that have been trying to do it on their own, and they've been doing it a way that's contrary, maybe the complete antithesis of what God's Word has to say. What can happen if we become unequivocally, passionately committed to doing things God's way? What can happen, Gary?
Well, certainly God is going to bless. You know, he is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think. That's Ephesians chapter 3. You mentioned Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9, do not become weary in well-doing. 1 Corinthians 15:58 reminds us that we are to be steadfast, always abounding in the work of the Lord, because our labor in the Lord is not vain. And my challenge to people out there who might be discouraged now, whether it's in business or their church or their personal life, is put God's Word to the test. When God's Word is obeyed, it will bring blessing. When God's Word is disobeyed, then it's going to bring the opposite of blessing. I know of a pastor who years ago went into the ministry and built a huge church, and God was really blessing. But over a set of circumstances, he became bitter. We're talking about being blinded by bitterness. He became bitter. He became angry. In many ways, he became selfish. And you know, David, in just a short order, God took him out of that ministry. And today, that particular church is just a pittance of what it was, years back. The fact of the matter is, when we obey biblical principles and when we keep those biblical principles before us, the circumstances around us might not look good. The circumstances around us might be difficult. But if we maintain our focus upon God and God's Word, God is going to bless, because His Word does not return unto Him void. I remember years ago, maybe 40 years ago, 35 years ago, I had 60 people, Dave, leave my church in the course of 1 week. Now, that's enough to give any preacher a kick in the stomach, isn't it? 60 people in 1 week. And I remember being downhearted and discouraged, and I went to the hospital to make a visit. And I can still see it in my mind. I took the stairs rather than the elevator, and as I turned around how the steps go up and sort of, go back and forth on their way up to the next floor, as I turned around to go up those steps and putting my hand on the banister, it's just as though God spoke to me. Now, I didn't hear Him audibly, but it's as though He did speak to me audibly. He said, Gary, just keep preaching the Word. And Dave, within a year, that church just about doubled its attendance. It's God's Word that does it. And when we obey God and His Word, no matter what the circumstances are today, the best is yet to come when Jesus is involved. But we need to keep His Word and the principles of His Word central, focused in our lives.